Hey Geometries, this is Mr. Bloom with Lesson 3.1, Lines and Angles. Objectives today, to identify relationships between figures in space and to identify angles formed by two lines in a transversal. So, our essential understanding, not all lines and not all planes intersect. Our definition, parallel lines are coplanar lines that do not intersect. The symbol, two railroad shacky things here, means is parallel to. So if I was going to look at the symbols here and say line AE is parallel to line BF, I'm going to hunt down line AE, and line BF, and they are parallel. These lines will not cross. Line AD is parallel to line BC. Line AD is parallel to line BC. Incidentally, line AB is parallel to line HG and DC and EF as well, just to give you some examples. Skew lines. Skew lines are non-coplanar, so they're not in the same plane, and they are not parallel. Now, not only are they not in the same plane, but you can't draw a plane that makes that work. Remember, planes are always flat. So skew lines are line AB and line CG are skew. AB and CG are skew. I can't draw a plane to them, and they will not cross. There's separation. Okay, they will not intersect. Okay, the A, B, and CG, but they are skew. They are not parallel. So AB is parallel to HG. Okay, AB intersects BF, and AB and DH, AB and EH, AB and FG are all skew lines. Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. Okay, so this plane ABC, or in our case here, they're naming it 4 letters, plane ABCD, and is parallel to plane EFGH, and the planes that, like the ceiling and the floor, are parallel, and the front wall and the back wall, the side wall and the side wall, so keep those in mind. Now, a line and a plane that do not intersect are called parallel. Segments and rays can also be parallel or skew. They are parallel if they lie in parallel lines and skew if they lie in skew lines. So let's keep that in mind. So just keep those parallel skew lines and things that intersect kind of separate. Let's talk about identifying non-intersecting lines. In the figure, lines and planes, excuse me, in the figure, assume that lines and planes that appear to be parallel are parallel. So which segments are parallel to segment AB? So which segments are parallel to segment AB? Parallel to AB is segment DC, segment HG, and segment EF. So those things are parallel to it. Now, it's really tough for people to recognize this being parallel, but remember, if I can draw a plane that will go through, so AB is parallel to HG, okay? So keep that in mind. If I can draw a plane through those lines, I can make them parallel because they'd be in the same plane. Now, which segments are skewed to CD? Well, if I have CD, let me get this out of here. We'll delete that. And if I have CD, and I'm just going to mark CD here blue. If I have CD right here, which segments are skew to it? Now, skew will not cross, okay, and they're not in the same plane. So HE or EH, FG, BF, and AE are 4 segments that are skew to DC or CD. So now we should be able to see those answers. Maybe if I can bring that up. So we have segment FG, we have segment EH, we have segment FH, we actually do have segment FH, but we'll talk about that in a second. Because wow, who thought about segment FH? And then I have segment AE, And I didn't include all of them, but why in the world would I have written segment FH? FH is this segment right here. It's not drawn, but it's there. FH comes through here and there, and it is skew to DC. With that idea, segment EG is also skew to DC. Okay, so there's multiple segments skew. Okay, even if they're not drawn, I've got BE, AF, BG, and that's it because I don't want to come in contact with those. But just to give you some that are skew. Now let's talk about what are two pairs of parallel planes. Now there's three pairs of parallel planes here. If we keep this in mind, and I perhaps clean up my pictures here, my parallel planes are actually this one and this one, this side one to this side, and the green front with the green back. Okay, so we are really looking at, and I named my planes with three letters, plane ABC, plane ABC, that's the top, and plane EFG, that's the bottom. Plane ABF, ABF, that's the left side, to plane DCG, DCG, that's the right side. Plane ADH, ADH, the front side, and plane BCG, that's the back side. So those are my sets of parallel planes. Now, what are two segments parallel to plane BCGF? Now, two segments parallel to planes BCGF. So let's find BCGF, this is the plane, two segments. Well, two segments that are parallel to that plane are in a plane parallel to the plane. So BCGF, the segments that would be parallel to it are residing in the plane that is parallel to that, so ADHE. So segment AD is parallel, segment DH is parallel, segment HE is parallel, segment EA is parallel, segment AH is parallel, and segment DE is parallel. But I didn't name all of those. Okay, I just got a couple of them. They just asked for two. I hope that helped with skew lines, parallel planes, parallel lines. Now, explain why segment FE and segment CD are not skew. FE and CD, and remember, we talked about this earlier, these wouldn't be skew because they exist in a plane that's not drawn, but can be drawn, that has both those segments in them, and those segments are parallel to one another. So what would we write? FE, segment FE, there should be a segment there. So we should have a segment over the top. Segment FE and segment CD are parallel to each other. The plane they are both in is not drawn, so we drew that in, plane EFC. Okay, so I drew an EFC. Now, moving on. Essential understanding. When a line intersects two or more lines, the angles formed in the intersection points create special angle pairs. So a transversal, that's the T, and I'm going to point out what T is here. Let's make our transversal green. Our transversal, we're going to label that line T. That's this right here. Transversal is crossing two other lines. So a transversal is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at distinct points, one point and the other point. The diagram below shows the 8 angles formed by a transversal T and two lines L and M. Well, this is line L and this is line M, and these are my 8 angles that are formed where they cross. Now I guess that was nothing. Now, notice that angle 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 3, 4, 5, and 6 lie between L and M, and that's the interior. Okay, so they are interior angles. These are the interior of those two other lines. Angles 1, 2, 7, and 8 lie outside those lines, so they are considered exterior angles. So the interior angles are angle 4, angle 3, angle 6, angle 5. The exterior angles are angle 1, angle 2, angle 7, angle 8. Kind of cool. Now, pairs of these 8 angles have special names as suggested by their positions. Wow, we have special names. Let's check these out. Now, keep in mind, this is the same diagram that I previously was on. Definition: alternate interior angles. And we will know these as AIA. Alternate interior angles are non-adjacent interior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So 4 and 6 are alternate interior angle pair. And 5 and 3 are also alternate interior angle pairs. I was going to highlight those, but I think I'm just going to let you know that 4 and 6, 5 and 3. I've got colors on them here. Now, in this next one, we have same side interior angles. Okay. And I'm just looking for a piece of stuff to draw. So I've got same side interior angles, SSIA, are interior angles that lie on the same side of the transversal. They're inside, so 4 and 5 are interior angles. 3 and 6 are also interior angles, but the interior angle pair is angle 4 and angle 5, and another interior angle pair is angle 3 and angle 6. Next, we have corresponding angles. Now, corresponding angles lie on the same side of the transversal T and in corresponding positions. Okay, so we got to keep that in mind. But corresponding angles, CA, corresponding angles, lie on the same side of the transversal T and in corresponding positions. So angle 1 and angle 5 are on the same side of the transversal in corresponding positions. Angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding angle pairs. Okay, angle 2 and angle 6 are also corresponding angle pairs, and 3 and 7 are corresponding angle pairs. So that's how we talk about our corresponding angles. Now we have our last one, alternate exterior angles. Now for alternate exteriors, AEA, alternate exterior angles, AEA, are non-adjacent exterior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So angle 1 and angle 7 is one pair of alternate exterior angles. Angle 2 and angle 8 is another pair of alternate interior angles. Now keep in mind, there's only 2 pairs of alternate interior angles. There are 4 pairs of corresponding angles. There are 2 pairs of same side interior angles, and there are 2 pair of alternate interior angles. Now, we've gone through them. It is your turn. This is a self-quiz. Turn me off and answer the next 2 questions. Okay, welcome back. Problem 2, identifying an angle pair. Which is a pair of alternate interior angles? So this is my transversal right here. Alternate interiors is angle 2 and angle 6, angle 7, and angle 3. Those are my alternate interior angles. So when I write them, I can talk about that. 2 and 6, 3 and 7. Okay, now use the figure in problem 2. What are 3 pairs of corresponding angles? Well, I know they're asking for 3, but there are actually 4 pairs of corresponding angles, so I found all 4, just in case, somebody was like, hey, what about mine? Okay, so here it is. When I'm looking at corresponding angles, I'm talking about, and I'm going to do them in colors, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 8, oops, should not be red there, 8 and 6, and 7 and 5. Those are corresponding. They're on the same side as the transversal in the same relative positions. 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 8 and 6, and 7 and 5. Those are our corresponding angle pairs. I hope that went well for you. If there's questions, make sure you talk to a geometry teacher in the flesh. Make sure you're inquiring about what's going on with those. Now, let's just make sure that was it. There you are. Now let's go on. Architecture. The photo below shows the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, Canada. Are angles 2 and 4 alternate interiors? Same side interiors. Corresponding angles are alternate exteriors. Well, they want to know which ones they are. Whoops, sorry, excuse me. They want to know which ones they are. So if I'm looking at this and I'm considering the question here, the photo below shows the Royal Ontario Museum. Are angles 2 and 4, so this is angle 2, and they're talking about angle 2 and 4. Now, they are on alternate sides of the transversal inside these two lines, so they're alternate interior angles, okay? Angle 2 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. Next, in problem 3, are angles 1 and 3, okay, so they're asking us about angles 1 and 3, excuse me. So we're talking about angles 1 and 3 here, if I can just get to the eraser. 1 and 3 is what we're looking at. So if I look at 1 and 3, how are they related? Well, they're in the same side of the transversal in corresponding positions, okay? So they are corresponding angles. So 1 and 3 are corresponding angles. And that's it for that page. And our summary today. Use the lesson objectives and your notes to reflect on what we learned today. Our objectives: to identify relationships between figures in space and to identify angles formed by two lines in a transversal. So let's see if you get it. Okay, here it is, self-quiz time. Make some lines on your page and put these angles in. Identify the relationships. They're either alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, same side. Go! All right, let's check them out. Angle 1 and angle 5 are exterior on alternate sides of the transversal. So that's alternate exteriors. 2 and 3 are on the same side. Okay, so they're same side interiors. Okay. 7 and 3 are on alternate sides on the inside so of the two lines, so they're alternate interiors. 8 and 4 are on alternate sides outside, so they're alternate exteriors. And 1 and 3 are in the same relative position on the same side of the transversal, and they're corresponding angles. I hope that went well for you. Okay, now let's look on the inside page of your chapter 3 notes. And let's check out the scale. What do we know? Prove lines parallel. Prove. Oh, we didn't do any proofs. Make logical arguments, logically justify, write equation of lines using, find missing angle measures. Oh, here it is. I've got line, so I'm gonna mark these things up. I've got line, I got parallel, I've got perpendicular. Oh, I don't know perpendicular yet. At least not from today. I've got a transversal. Transversal, alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side, corresponding, linear pairs, I know those. Complementary angles, hey, I know those. Supplementary angles, hey, I know those. Congruent angles, I know those. I guess I know perpendicular and angle bisector. I know vertices. I know vertical angles. I know adjacent angles. Point, slope, form, slope, intercept, consecutive, interior, exterior, interior. Ooh, I know exterior and interior. Vertical angles, I know those. Okay, there's a lot of things I know. Recognize different kinds of angles. Corresponding, exterior, interior, vertical. I know complementary and supplementary. Calculate slope, identify relationship between figures in space, find measures of angles, graph. Okay, wow, we know a lot of this. Well, chapter 3 may not be so bad. We already know a lot of stuff. Just make sure we're redoing our stuff and pay attention to your Quizlet. Y'all have a great day.